Hey guys, Lockie here, and yesterday was my 26th birthday. So I'm here in Bali celebrating, and in this video, it's gonna be a very raw, honest conversation to my younger 18-year-old self who was broke, insecure, very frustrated, and a little lost in life. So I've got 7 tips that hopefully you can use to get some more success and guidance in your life as well. Alrighty, now I've written out a list, so I'm gonna go through this for the 7 pieces of advice. So advice number 1 is around building your self-esteem and really strengthening it. And it's internal versus external reference pillars. So what that means is most people going through life, their self-esteem, which is essentially like what you think of yourself and how much you value yourself, is based on what I would call external reference pillars. So when I was 18, I can tell you 100% my entire self-image and self-esteem and confidence was based on external reference pillars. So external reference pillars are things like, likes, it's fitting in a social circle, it's how much money you have, it's the car you drive, the house you live in, how nice your clothes are, all the external things. And the reason I describe it as a reference pillar is because when you think and you ask the question, what do I think of myself? How confident am I? Do I like who I am? What most people do, especially when I was a lot younger, and it still happens today, I'm definitely not perfect, but I've worked on it a lot, is you reference the external pillars to get an understanding of what you think of yourself. Well, how much money do I have? Well, I don't have as much money as the person next to me. For me, when I was 18, I was very insecure and going through a lot of troubles financially with my family. And so for me, it was like, well, do I have the newest pair of shoes? The answer was definitely not. Was I a popular kid in school? No. And all those sorts of things. And so what we really want to do is switch that to internal reference pillars. Now, this is definitely easier said than done, and in my opinion, this is like a life journey type of thing. And an internal reference pillar is really getting to know yourself. Like, what are your own core values? I know that sounds a little cliche to be like talking about your own core values, but it's super important, especially as a young guy. Because when I was 18, and this is a really big thing for teenagers in high school and stuff, is you kind of look around at your peer group and your social circle and you assess where you stand in the social circle in regards to typically external reference pillar things like who's the coolest in the class, who's the most popular, who is wearing the nice clothes. I know that sounds superficial, but it really was. And I didn't have any of those things. And so I was a very insecure kid, and my family didn't have any of those things. And so my self-esteem and my self-image was really low. Like, I wasn't the best kid on the footy team or anything like that. And so what I've had to do over the years is develop very strong internal reference pillars. So I can go into any social environment, whether it be a business deal or moving to a new country or meeting a new group of people that I've never met before, getting a new job, and I go into the environment and I can look around, and even though my external reference pillars may not be really strong in regards to what other people would deem to be, self-validating, I can look at them and I can understand what's really important is referencing my internal reference pillars. And you can work on building those up over time, and they are really important because you can maintain a high level of self-esteem or a strong level of self-esteem independent of the environment that you're in, the people that you're around. Because if you're really moving through life, you want to be getting into social circles and environments that make you really uncomfortable and people elevate you, right? And so if you're using external reference pillars, that's not really a great way to validate how you should feel about yourself and what your confidence levels should be. So young Lockie, listening to this, I would say stop using external reference pillars to ascertain your own self-worth, because it's incorrect. Like, it's just wrong. I could give like the spiel about, it's always going to change and those sorts of things, but you're just wrong. Like, your own self-worth is completely determined and dictated by yourself. And it's in reference to what you decide to use as the benchmark. So internal reference pillars that I think you should work on are, like, for example, what are your standards? Like, as a young man or a young woman, right? What are your standards for how you treat other people, how you treat your family, how you wake up in the morning and take care of yourself, your professionalism in your career, in your job, even on the local footy team or whatever it is, your mannerisms and your social skills and your etiquette for how you interact with people when you meet new people. All these things is like increasing your level of self-awareness and your self-knowledge. And the more you can increase your own self-knowledge, your own self-awareness of who you are, the more you can focus on strengthening those things. So when you focus on getting a good routine in, waking up at the same time, taking care of your body by eating good foods and not trash foods, saving money so you can strengthen your financial position to feel more secure for yourself and most importantly for your family. If you really work on those internal reference pillars, when you go into environments where you feel like your external reference pillars get shaky and they get challenged, you don't have to use those. You can default to the internal reference pillars and your self-esteem is gonna be a lot more solid. Alrighty, advice number 2 is it's not if, but when. Man, I really wish I could tell myself this, and if I could tell my 18-year-old self this, probably wouldn't believe it. And so when I was getting started in online business stuff, I didn't know anybody who had ever built a successful online business. I didn't know anyone who'd built a successful business because I love my dad with all of my heart, but as an entrepreneur, he failed. As a father, he was an amazing father. I couldn't have wished for a better father, but in the vertical of business, he failed miserably. And so I didn't have any neighbors who were like rich business guys, or I didn't know anyone in my circle who had succeeded in online business. So when I was backed into a corner with our family's financial situation and I had to start an online business, it was definitely if. I definitely thought to myself, if I can make this work, if I'm going to be successful. And if I could go back, I would say, Lockie, it's when. And there's so many reasons as to why that little distinction there is important, because you could argue it's just semantics, and I guess it is, but when you think it's if, you take the actions and the level of commitment that aligns with your conviction in the outcome, okay? So let's use the example of jumping out of a plane. Okay, if you're standing up there on the plane, well, first of all, you probably wouldn't get on it if you thought I was going to make it down safely, right? But let's say that you get into an airplane, right? And you're skydiving, you've got the parachute on your back, and you're standing on the edge of the plane, and it's 35,000 feet in the air. If your mind is thinking, if this parachute pulls and I land safely, like if I land safely, imagine how much harder it's going to be to jump with 2 feet off the plane and fully commit. Imagine how terrifying that trip down is going to be rather than being able to enjoy it, okay? Now imagine if you knew 100% with 1,000,000% conviction that your parachute was going to pull and you thought, when I land safely. I know that may be an interesting analogy to use, but when I was getting online business, I felt like that. Like when I was buying my first online course, because I didn't have any skills. So I had to pay someone who'd been there, done that for skills. But all I heard was this online business thing isn't legit and it's never gonna work and all that kind of stuff. And guess who I heard it from? I heard it from all the other broke people around me who were confused in 9-to-5s and hadn't done anything and hadn't made anything of themselves and hated their lives and weren't financially successful. And there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5. However, the people who were around me saying that influenced my mindset. And my upbringing from not knowing anybody also influenced my mindset. And so it took me a really long time to fully commit. And I actually didn't commit because out of positivity, I committed because I was backed into a corner, right? And so if I could go back to the younger Lockie, I would say, dude, if you keep showing up, right, the only way you can fail is if you quit, right? Are you gonna quit? Is this something you have an option to quit? And the answer for me back then was definitely no. And so if you're not going to quit, right? And whether this is online business or musician or starting a podcast or your health and fitness journey, whatever it is, if you're not going to quit, okay, and what you're trying to achieve is based on learnable skills, which by the way, all skills are learnable, right? If you're not going to quit and it's learnable skills, then it's a matter of when. Right? It's a matter of when, because the only way you lose is if you quit. And I had that if mindset for a really long time. And not only did that cause me to constantly second guess and question if I should stop, because what's the point in dedicating the next 4 or 5 years of your life to a venture if you think it's an if I'm going to succeed? It's it's way lower, right? You're naturally going to be way lower. But if you switch it to a when I succeed, your level of conviction will be higher, your level of commitment will be higher, the level of action that you take and the certainty in which you do it will be higher. And guess what's going to happen to the results, Lockie? Right? They're going to be better, right? They're going to be better and it's going to be a faster trip. But most importantly, it's going to be more enjoyable. Right? And it's not going to be riddled and laced with self-doubt, which is really heavy, like the self-doubt of if versus the excitement and the hope and the enthusiasm of when is a radically different experience, and you're going to have to go. So I'm 26 now, right? And so I got into the online business stuff when I was about 18. And so it's been 8 years since then. And that 8 years was very testing in the first 4 years, because I just failed miserably for 4 years, right? When I first got into online business, and I was my own worst enemy because I used the external scenarios around me, the lack of validation and other people doing it, as proof that it's an if, not a when, right? But if I had had one successful person in my life, or the 26-year-old myself, recording a video for me, and that person said, "Wake up, Lockie, you're not a fool. You're a capable young man, you just don't know anything yet, and you've got no one to point to support you in this journey." So if you keep showing up and you don't quit, okay? If you are willing to learn the skills, it's not gonna be easy, it's not gonna be simple, but they are learnable skills, okay? Then you will succeed eventually. And hey, it may take 2 years, it may take 8, which is what it's taken. However, it will be worth it at the end. So it's when, not if. Okay, piece of advice number 3, and this is a big one. Don't listen to anyone's opinion who doesn't have bigger dreams for you than yourself. Now, this is a big one because when I was young and insecure and way off where I am now, even though I'm nowhere near where I want to be, I was always looking for validation. I think that's pretty normal to do when you're young and you're growing up and you're finding yourself, is looking for validation. And the people that I looked for validation from were my parents, right? My family members, and I love them all, and my friends, and I love all those guys as well. And even, just random peers and colleagues at work. However, if I look back, I can count on one hand the amount of people who had bigger dreams and aspirations for me than I did at those times, okay? And I think if you use this as a filter, young Lockie, or whoever's watching this, to filter the opinions of others that you hear on a daily basis and affect your life, you will have a much higher quality of life. And it's just an interesting frame, because when I was younger, I obviously had really big dreams for, at first it was just getting out of pain, but then as I started to become more competent, I had big dreams for myself. And so when you first start off, often you talk a lot more about your dreams and your visions than you do taking action, which, that's a whole separate lesson in and of itself. But when you talk to people around you, often they'll give you their opinion. And if your path that you want to pursue is not a normal one, then guess what their opinion is going to be? It's going to be likely negative. They're likely going to be prompting all of the questions and all of the concerns, all the challenges, all the things that can go wrong, right? And so I listened way too much and gave way too much weight to the opinions of people who didn't have bigger dreams for me than I had for myself. And so what that meant was, it's almost like a small little side tangent that will kind of give a demonstration of this. Do you know what makes the best chefs in the world make the best food? You would think that, they'd have these secret cooking ingredients and all these different things. But I watched a documentary, and actually what it is they spend the most time sourcing the best ingredients. A lot of their cooking procedures and preparation techniques are quite simple. But what they do is they put an asymmetric amount of time into finding the right ingredients. And so why is that relevant to this? That's relevant because what you produce in the quality of your life is often reflective of the ingredients you put into your mind, right? And those ingredients in this scenario is people's opinions. And if you have garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. And if you are influenced by people around you and hearing all their opinions, and they're riddled with self-doubt, they're miserable in their life, they aren't living the things that you want to pursue, then their opinions, you don't have to be disrespectful or anything like that. Still hear them out, but you need to recognize when it's okay for their opinions to wash over you like water off a duck's back. And I gave way too much weight to the opinions of people who did not have my best interests at heart. They wanted the best version of me for them. They didn't want the best version of me. And because I was looking for so much validation when I was younger, it wasn't water off a duck's back. It pierced the surface and then it sunk deep and it stayed there. People would influence my moods. I would change my goals and my routines and my habits and my hobbies based on what other people said. It's not like I was pretending or trying to be somebody else, but if you go to launch an online business and everyone around you says that's not going to work, then you listen to that and you're like, shit, maybe they're right. But if they've never launched an online business, then they have, like, where's their opinion coming from, right? And some of these opinions are actually, like, they have your best interest at heart, but they don't have bigger dreams for you than you do. If you're going to move countries, if you're going to hire a tutor to learn another language or learn a musical instrument, or you're going to hire a personal trainer to help you get in better shape, and everyone around you is like, oh geez, personal trainers are pretty expensive, like, how do you know they're not just trying to rip you off? And like, they're not in shape, if they've never hired a personal trainer, that person doesn't have a bigger vision for you than you do. And so you can be amicable and listen to their opinion and hear them out, but in the back of your head, you need to grab it and throw it in the bin. Alrighty, number 4 is increase the intensity of the feedback to achieve new problems. And what that means, I wrote that pretty choppy there, is essentially when you're trying to overcome challenges, this is a little bit more tactical. When you're trying to overcome challenges in your life, whether it be in your career, a new skill, often you need to implement the solution, like the action, to a way higher level of intensity. Okay, so I've trained a lot of employees and on new skills and getting to really high levels with skills in coaching and digital marketing and lots of different things, okay? And so what happens is your current version of your skill set and your identity and your standards and those types of things in relation to that skill, okay, you think that that's at a reasonable level. The action that you're taking is at a reasonable level. Let's just use going to the gym because that's a really simple example that everyone can understand. So the level at which you go to the gym and how hard you work out, right, the intensity of which you push yourself for you seems reasonable. And that is why the level at which you're implementing that intensity, you're getting the results in your life at that level that matches it, okay? Now, if you're trying to get to the next level and make physical gains or be more functional or lose weight, whatever it is for you, then you need to increase the level of intensity at which you implement the solution to solve the problem or get to where you want to go, which would be doing weights or doing more reps or just training harder and pushing your body for longer, okay? Now, the challenging part about this is the current version of yourself has what you have because the level of intensity at which you're implementing the solution, the feedback, the action, whatever, however you want to phrase that, for you seems reasonable, okay? And that is why you're exactly where you are. However, you need to break through that ceiling of reasonableness, right? And this is really important. This is something I have to coach our team members on all the time, is if you want to get an outcome in your career, whether it be a promotion, whether it be a certain result, whether it be a certain commission, whatever it is, you need to implement the level of activity to an unreasonable standard defined by you because it's so intense. And if you think about, okay, what would be unreasonable for me to do? Well, how about I show up 2 hours early to work and that project that I've been putting off or haven't been able to complete, I only work on that before I take any other meetings? What about if I show up 3 hours to work? What about to get to the gym and change my physique before summer, I wake up an hour early, right? And whenever you start thinking of these things, you immediately start thinking about all the reasons why you can't do it. All the reasons why that's unreasonable. There's no way I can do that. I need to look after the kids, or there's this thing I need to do. I have prior commitments, whatever it is. And that fact that you think implementing the solution to that level of intensity is unreasonable is exactly why you are where you are. So if you want to get to the next level with anything in your life, the first thing I do, and I coach my teammates on, and younger Lockie, I advise you to do, is look at, okay, what is the level of intensity at which I'm implementing something right now to get the outcome? Chances are you may not even need to do something new. And then ask the question, what would be a really intense level that I could implement this at that seems and feels completely unreasonable to me right now? Okay? Identify that and fucking do it. Fucking do it. Or accept that you're just not going to get the result. And that's okay too. But you have to make a decision. You can't decide that you want to achieve this level of success or this skill or whatever it is, and then only keep doing what you define as reasonable, which is getting you what you've already got. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And one really good indication when you start implementing this and that it's actually working is you get new problems. Now, when you're getting better at anything or achieving any level of success, in my opinion, you basically just get new problems, right? I think life is just a continuum of challenges, of new challenges, and the bigger the challenges are, it's a representation of new problems that you're getting. And so what I always say to the team is, and to my younger self, is you need to stop battling the same boss. You need like new challenges, you need new problems. And to get new problems, you have to break through your current ceiling. And to do that, you need to implement the solution, which you may already be doing some of, to a level of intensity that's so high, you would deem it unreasonable right now. And if you do it at that new level for a long enough period of time, you will get new problems. But guess what comes with new problems? New benefits. I can definitely say that the more teammates that we've added on, the more clients that we've added on to our companies, I have consistently got new problems. But with new problems comes, new benefits as well. Alrighty, number 5 is nobody has it figured out and you never will. So stop using that as the benchmark to grade yourself against. I think this is funny. This kind of goes back to number 1 a little bit on the internal versus external reference pillars. Is when I was younger, and even still today, you look around and it's like everyone has this shit figured out. Like, man, how come I don't have my shit figured out just yet? And younger Lockie, no one's got their shit figured out, all right? I promise you that. It doesn't matter how polished people look on the surface. Even the most successful people you look up, and you've met some of them now, now behind the scenes, things aren't always as glitz and glam as they seem. And that's okay, and that's a good thing. Life isn't about being super polished in every respect. You've got your own flaws and you've got your own mistakes, and I promise you other people have them. It's just up to them whether they want to be vocal or not about them. But again, stop using other people's lives as a measuring stick and a benchmark for how you should feel about yours. That's really, really, really freaking important. And the phrase I would always default to is, man, that dude just has it figured out. Especially as a young guy, because I love my father. He was an amazing dad, but he wasn't a role model to me in regards to like success, right? And so I looked up to a lot of guys and I was like, man, that dude just has it so figured out. But now I have met some of those guys, and some of those guys, they have it really figured out in one vertical. Okay, but you can have it really figured out in one vertical and then have a vertical over here that's burning down around you. And you need to focus on what your verticals are. What are the verticals that are important to you, and what are the ones that, if you work on the most, are going to strengthen your internal reference pillars. So that when you think, how do I feel about myself? Do I like myself? Do I have confidence? What's my self-image? You reference the internal pillars that are your highest values and they've been strengthened over time, and you're not chasing this unreachable vision that doesn't even exist of having it figured out. Alrighty, number 6, you must open up your heart and let people in, because you'll experience life to the fullest degree. The people who leave you were supposed to leave you, and you're changing fast. And those people, you guys had your chapter. Now, I know that sounds a little bit sad, like a little bit of a violin moment, like, man, someone really broke this kid's heart. Not true. It's not true. This isn't coming from a place of heartbreak. This is coming from a place of, I've always had a really big heart, as soppy as that may sound. I've always really loved people, and I've never really been too crazy, like closed off. I feel like, some guys, they kind of put on the tough man face and they're not willing to talk about their emotions or open up or let people in. I've never really had that problem. I have a phenomenal relationship with my mom. Not saying that like if you don't open up, it's because you had a fucked up childhood with your mom, but my mom has such a big heart. Like, she is the queen in my world. She always will be. She can never be replaced. And I love her to death. And so I have a big heart because she has a big heart. And so I've seen all the love that she's given to my family, because terrible things happened to her when she was a child, just as it happens with lots of people, and that's not my business to share. And because of that, she went all in on her family, and she showed me a lot of love. And I saw that, and I idolized my mum for that, as I should. And I've gone through life having a really big heart. And I think when I was younger, I was a little bit more closed off. I would always let people in, but I think because I was so insecure, I was a little bit more cautious of being hurt. And now that I'm older, I can for sure say that the best experiences I've had in my life was because I opened up my heart to the fullest degree. And I know a lot of people actually struggle with this, I think especially men, because it's not seen as super macho, and a lot of guys actually, I think, have a fear of being hurt emotionally. And I think that causes people, women as well, but I think that causes a lot of guys to stay closed off and sort of emotionally detach from a lot of scenarios and not let people in and put up a bit of a wall, a bit of a front of being like an alpha guy. And there's nothing wrong with being an alpha guy, but if you are emotionally unavailable to, whether it be a partner, whether it be your parents, whether it be your family, your friends or colleagues, you're really just limiting the fulfillment and the quality of what you can experience in your own life. Like, why would you want to do that? It's like you played yourself, right? And so I think the reason I add in the bit, the people who leave were supposed to, and you're changing fast and they had their chapter, is because I think when you open up your heart, a lot of people don't do it and they're timid to do it. And when I was younger and I was more timid to do it, it was because I was scared of people leaving, right? Because if you open up your heart, you let people in, you form really deep connections, and then people leave, it hurts, man. That fucking hurts. But now I can look back and I can see, yeah, those people who moved on, and it's not like a negative thing, like they moved on, we had some shit fight or there was a big breakup or anything, right? It's more that they were supposed to, right? Especially if you change fast. And as a young man, I was changing really fast. I was continually trying to level up my identity. I was changing fast, in good ways and sometimes bad ways, right? And so I was changing very fast, and the people who were in my life that I had formed very deep connections with, when they left, it did hurt. But that's a good thing, because it means that for the chapter that they were in my life, I maximized the experiences I can have. And so I think for the younger version of myself, and potentially anyone watching who finds it really hard to open up and have a big heart, I would say you're only doing yourself a disservice to the level of fulfillment and enjoyment that you can experience in your own life with the people around you. And so open up, man. And when you open up and people leave, expect it and don't get cut about it. Just know they were supposed to. The people that leave your life, they were supposed to, and that is okay, because you had your chapter with them and they had their chapter with you, and now it's time for you to move on and have amazing chapters with new people. Alrighty, number 7 is you must change your identity to change your life. And this is a quote from one of my mentors, first mentors ever actually, Brian Tracy, awesome guy, if you want to look him up on YouTube, is making $1 million is not the important thing. Becoming the person who can make $1 million is the most important thing. So we have 3 multi-million-dollar companies now. And when I was first starting off, I was, our family was just in a really bad financial spot. And so I was desperate, really desperate. If there was a worse word for desperate, I would use that, but I can't think of one, to make money. And so in my mind, it's like, okay, how to make the most money? How to make the most money? It was always like money oriented. However, what I learned from Brian Tracy, because when I was at school, I used to not hang out with people at lunch, and I would go and listen to personal development seminars at lunchtime and take notes, right? Because I was like, fuck, I need to change things to the family. And one thing, when I heard him say this, it hit me like a brick, because I was so focused on how do I make money, how do I make money? But what I never took the time was to pause, take 2 steps back and think, am I the person who could even make this work to begin with, right? And so when I changed that and I thought about that, what I started doing was asking different questions, like what qualities would the person who could be successful in this endeavor actually have? How would they show up to work? What would their calendar look like? Would they even use a calendar, right? Because they would be using a calendar. I didn't use a calendar back then. And so no matter what your dreams are, young Lockie, or wonderful human watching this, don't think about, getting 1 million views on a YouTube video is the most important thing, or getting a 6-pack is the most important thing, or whatever it is. Think about the most important thing is becoming the person who has those things. And if you focus on the habits, those standards, those qualities, and you make that the goal, what you'll find is that reality will actually start bringing all those things into your life that you so desire. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a way longer feedback loop. I remember when I was first getting online business, I was like, man, my goal was like $1,000 a day. Well, actually first it was just to pay my bills. But then like once I could actually start to do that, it was like $100 a day, and it's like $1,000 a day. And I used to write in my notepad again and again and again, I, Lockie Pure, make $100 a day by X date. Until it was funny about the X date, it was always 30 days away. It was always 30 days away. And then I'd do like, I make $1,000 a day by 30 days away. And guess what? It never happened, and it took a lot longer than 30 days. Well, I mean, it did happen eventually, right? But like, it didn't happen in 30 days. That never happened. But I was so oriented around the money and the time that I forgot the qualities. But instead, I wrote down in my journal, I, Lockie Pure, use a calendar to prioritize the most needle-moving tasks to achieve financial success. That would have helped me move towards that goal a lot faster. Alrighty, now I know I said 7, but I'm gonna give you one bonus one to wrap up this video. And that is number 8. Be your authentic self, because there truly is only one of you. You will have a higher quality of life with less stress, and you will form deeper connections with the few people who matter most, because the only important things you will collect over these next 8 years are the memories of those closest to you. So, you can say that's a little bit of like a fridge magnet type piece of advice, right? And it kind of is, but I believe in it. So when I was younger, yeah, that hits for me. When I was younger, I was looking at role models of like more successful people, and I was always trying to not imitate in like a weird way, but trying to be more like them. And the harder I tried to be more like other people, the less I tried to be more my authentic self. And there is only one of you, young Lockie. You've got weird quirks, right? You've got a big heart, and you're really motivated to help the people around you, and you'll persist and you'll trip and you'll fall. And those individual qualities, those unique things, lean into them, man. Like, those are super special to you, and the more time you spend trying to be like other people, the less time you're going to have to enjoy being yourself. And when you are trying to be someone else, you will not form deeper connections with people who really resonate and love you and who you authentically are. You're going to attract people into your life who are trying to be something that they're not as well, and you get in this little social circle where everyone's trying to be something they're not, and there's very surface level connections. Because while right now, young Lockie, you're chasing material success because you need to for the family, over the next 8 years, I promise you're going to look back, and anything that you collect is not going to matter. What's going to matter is the memories you form based on the experiences you have with the people who are closest to you. And if you don't fully step in to loving yourself and fully appreciating who you are individually, you're not going to form deep connections with people who genuinely care authentically about yourself, and you're not going to collect as many memories in this game of life as humanly possible. And man, that's a sad 8 years. So do it. That's the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.